So today's video will be a bit different. I'll be only speaking in English. So if you haven't seen my other videos, I'm from Canada. I used to live in Montreal with my family, so I do know how to speak French, English, and because my mom is Japanese, because I am half, I do know how to speak Japanese. So today I'm going to really tell you about maybe the good points or the bad points about being multilingual and having a family that speaks different languages. So for me personally, I think the main good part was that I'm able to travel freely, and I'm able to speak to different people in different languages and be able to communicate and not have to translate anything and really understand what they're saying. But really, I would say maybe the bad point would be that I really mix the languages a lot, and that I also have I get confused sometimes with the different languages. So that would be really my main point. But I'll go more deeper in what I've seen online and what maybe other people would say are their main point of why being multilingual is a good thing, but also a bad thing. So one of the main good points is that I can read, I can write. If somebody gives me a French book, I can read it and I'll understand everything. And even an English book, I'll read everything and I'll understand everything. But me, just because I lived in Canada my whole life, Japanese is a bit harder for me. So if somebody does give me a book in Japanese, I won't be able to read it freely because I can't really read the kanjis properly. But if somebody would read it to me, then I would understand because my listening and speaking is better than my reading. But then this comes with maybe a bad point, is that when it came to learning different languages when I was younger, I really learned it from school. I learned English and French, mainly French because I went to a French school. But this can vary from different people. People sometimes went to an English school and then they learned French as a second language. And then me, because I had Japanese also at home, there was another language coming in, so it was a lot in my head. And then that comes with the bad point where learning different languages at the same time made me it says that study shows that the more you know languages at a young age, the more the different subjects that you do in school, math or science, they go down a bit because the languages go on a higher level because you know a lot more of it. And then also that comes with a lot of a gap sometimes. So they said that there are studies that shows that that kids that learn different languages since they're young, there's subjects that they'll have lower marks instead of the languages. And then also but there are different good parts also. There are bad points, I would say, but there are many good points. The good points, I would say, career wise, they say people that learn different languages and learn many languages have a higher value when it comes to employers with their careers. So because they know different languages, that there's a lot more careers that can open the doors for them. And then there's also the cultural diversity. So for example, because I know different languages, like I said, traveling is easier, studying abroad is easier, and then I learn different cultures, and then I'm more open. It shows that people that know many languages are more open to different cultures and are less racist when it comes to those type of things. So there's a lot that marry different races or that stuff like that. And then there's studies that show also that if you do know different languages, that your mental health problem is almost at zero. I didn't read completely too deep into that, but it said that because your brain was like function where you know different languages, and it's more like how do I say, like it's more like sparking a lot because you know different things a lot more, and also it widens a lot of things, like your mental health problems go down a bit, go down more than just somebody that knows only one language. And then they also say that when it comes to people that know 3 or more languages, learning more languages is easier for them. So for example, I know English, French, and Japanese, and then if ever I would want to learn like Korean, it would be easier for me to learn because my brain was adapted to really get in more information as language part of it. So it would be easier for me to learn Korean, for example, than somebody that would only know one language. So these are really like the main good parts. If I go more in the main bad parts, there's people that said that living in a country that only has one language would be harder for people that know different languages, because like I said, sometimes the language is mixed together. So and then sometimes, like if somebody only knows one language, for them they'll only know that language, so there'll be like a gap in the communication. So that's maybe a more problematic thing. Like I see it a lot because now I'm living in Japan. Like sometimes I won't know a word in Japanese and I'll only know it in French or English in my head, and then I'll just get stuck because I don't know how to say it properly. And then like I said before, there's also like the learning aspect of it when you're younger. So like for me, example, like I was very good in French and English. Like writing was a bit hard because they do say that the writing is very hard for multilingual because of all the languages they have in their head, so they get more confused. But and then also they also said that like the other subjects, so for example, like in English I was very good, but in math or science my marks were lower, let's just say it that way. And then they also say that because I have a lot of languages, it gets a lot of mixed up in my head. So multilingual people often, it's like if like there's a circus going up there, so there's a lot of different things that are mixed up, and then we tend to overthink. Like these type of people tend to overthink things or think too much, so that becomes a bit of a tiring thing that multilingual people do have. And then there was also the fact that there was also one thing that I read that I could really relate to, was that when I was living in Canada, like I could communicate with my mom in Japanese. So sometimes, like if my mom did not want other people to hear what my mother would tell me in public, she would tell me in Japanese. So this, they said that like sometimes it could be embarrassing for the child. So for example, like I still remember like times that like my mom would scream at me like in public in Japanese, but then other people wouldn't understand what she's saying, but they would still know that she's screaming at me because of like the mannerisms and the way that she was like projecting her words. So that's a thing that like I remember that was very embarrassing, because like even though no one could understand her, like everybody knew that like she was screaming at me in a store, you know. So that was something that I thought was pretty funny, but it is a bad point in all of it. So I think really like this really sums up maybe the good and the bad points of being multilingual. There are different people that will relate to different things or even have more things to say than things that I had said today. But in general, I do think it's a good thing that I know many languages, because you know, I can live freely in Japan and I don't have as much problem as if I only knew English, you know. So it is a good point for me, especially because I like traveling and I like meeting new people. So for me it is a good thing, but then also it could be a bad thing for other people, you know, like, so it really depends on the person really when it comes to multilingual. Like I feel like people should know really English if it's not their main language. I still think that people should learn English because I do feel like it is very important. And if you want to travel, English is the number one main language all over the world. So I do think it is a good thing. But like, I'm not saying that like you should go learn like 5 languages, you know. But I feel like it is more good to know many languages than bad. But there are bad things and good things like in everything. So I think that would be all for this video. But I'll see you soon. Bye bye.